All right, everyone, welcome to our video series where we explore the cutting edge of biotech innovation. Today, we're thrilled to have our founder and CEO, Christian Cobaugh, with us. Christian, thanks for joining.
Thanks, Kristen, for having me. I'm excited to share how Vernal's making a difference to innovators in mRNA medicines.
So let's start with landscape at its highest level. Why are mRNA and lipid nanoparticles, or LNPs, so critical in today's therapeutic landscape?
So, in the genetic medicine space, mRNA and lipid nanoparticles provide the ability to redose or dose to effect, unlike viral gene transfer. Additionally, um, mRNA and LNP is transient in nature, and that actually can be viewed as a benefit, particularly when your application is gene editing or gene regulation. So, as we know with the COVID vaccines and other vaccines, LNP and mRNA is definitely here to stay, and the use cases for it is growing.
Excellent, thank you. And as we think about those mRNA and LNPs, and analytical services obviously play a crucial role in maintaining quality. Can you elaborate on their importance?
Yeah, to really understand whatever data you're generating, whether it's a simple cell biology screen, a preclinical study in animals, or even in the clinic, you have to understand the consistency and the quality of the test material that you're working with. And so analytical services lays the groundwork for that understanding.
Excellent. And how identify the need for specialized analytical services in the mRNA and LNP space?
So the technologies that are required to evaluate the quality and the purity of mRNA and LNPs is really vast, and it's a massive investment for any company to make. And so it's pretty rare to see all of this in one place. And so, to support EMP, we needed to do this. And we decided that why not extend these offerings beyond GMP so that innovators in the mRNA medicines and other types of mRNA research can come up with a plan to assess the quality and the purity as early as discovery biology and all the way through the clinic.
Can you elaborate on what Vernal offers and how they differ from those offered by competitors?
Yeah, first of all, we are fully integrated in terms of the services that we offer to mRNA innovators. This includes manufacturing as well as the QC services. And so our customers can take advantage of that integration, not just with the mRNA, but perhaps reference material as well. So we will accept, samples that are generated by other labs or other vendors into our analytical services. And then I think that integration is also represented in our ability to test material that's intended for, again, early discovery all the way through clinical development. We've standardized all of the technologies required to evaluate the quality of mRNA, and that's no small feat. Those methods have essentially been platformed. In some cases, they do need to be tailored or established for particular molecules. If the assay is sequence specific, then you'll probably see a little bit of development required to run the assay method. But we have workflows for all of that method establishment, if it does need to be tailored. And then I think finally, we have really cutting edge technology. This is the most up-to-date technology, in some cases exceeding what the USP and even the FDA are expecting. So we've got the basics covered as well as orthogonal methods to confirm or to qualify whatever needs to be assessed.
When we think about these analytical services, how are they helping drug developers either solve a problem, achieve a goal, or prevent an issue that they're facing?
So this gets back to one of my comments earlier about understanding your whatever data you think you need for drug discovery or development, um, by, by fully understanding the quality of the test articles. And if you don't have that connection, you run the risk of not having a full picture to make decisions. And a good example of that might be you would discard an mRNA sequence, not based on the sequence, but potentially because of some hidden impurity that you didn't know was present, or a lack of potency for some other reason related to QC. So it makes your all of your research and development more efficient. It leads to fewer experiments that need to be repeated, which ultimately leads to a faster speed to clinic, as well as less money spent.
How do you develop an analytical strategy that enables drug developers to make informed decisions earlier in their program's life cycle?
So I think what we're trying to do here is work our way backwards from what's expected from a regulatory perspective, for clinical material, and we want to kind of build towards that. Starting again with the earliest discovery stage experiments and taking a very phase appropriate approach there. And you could imagine that, the quality attributes that are important for early stage discovery are going to be far fewer than what's needed for a clinical application. But we want to see those those methods and that strategy build, from as early as we start working with the customer. So perhaps the preclinical supply goes a little bit beyond what you need for early stage discovery, and then you're ready for an IND enabling toxicology study with the methods that you built for preclinical plus a few more, and then ultimately all of this transitions into your clinical program. So we are trying to work with a phase appropriate approach here, and it really depends on what the customer needs are at each of the stages. I do want to point out that, there's a lot of mysticism really around what the FDA and other regulatory agencies are expecting. And given, our extensive interactions with the FDA, as well as best practices in the field, I mean, we can cut right to the chase as to what's going to be expected, saving our customers a lot of pain and time spent determining which webcast or which um, regulatory guidance is the most appropriate for them. We'll just cut right through a lot of that time.
So, in kind of the spirit of those processes and putting together that strategy, how does Vernal collaborate with clients during that process to ensure that their specific needs are met at phase appropriate?
Yeah, so I think what we're looking for is, where does a client want to be and when do they want to be there? And we can point out at each stage of the game, what are the best options, what are the best practices, and again, start out, relatively modest, to only evaluate what's absolutely essential to make decisions every step of the way. But ultimately, I think a fruitful collaboration starts with a pretty open conversation about where is the customer trying to get and when are they trying to get there.
And how do you envision Vernal services ultimately benefiting patients and improving health outcomes?
That's a big question. I mean, there's a lot of ways here. I mentioned speed and efficiency to the clinic, as well as, fully understanding and making sure that you're putting the best possible medicines into people's arms. So, that starts early. Again, I cited that hypothetical example of discarding, something because it had some unknown purity. issues. So that's just an example that really compounds one way or the other. And so understanding the quality every step of the way on a phase appropriate basis is ultimately going to help patients in need.
For any of our listeners that are emerging companies in the biotech field looking to develop mRNA-based therapies, what advice would you give them?
Well, it's never too soon to start looking at a QC and quality strategy. We are here to work with you. The pain of overlooking something far exceeds the work that we can do on behalf of customers. The costs are relatively modest, in comparison to, what you might pay to kind of undo or redo decision-making experiments.
And finally, what would you like any potential clients or partners who are listening in to take away from this interview?
Um, we're here for conversations. We're here to solve problems uh, across the entire spectrum and value chain of mRNA medicines development. We've seen a lot of success in this field, and we've fixed a lot of problems in that our customers, bring to us. So, I would recommend scheduling a consultation. You're going to talk to some pretty experienced people here at Vernal, and we will help you guys come up with a plan of attack. Again, always phase appropriate, which leads to pretty significant savings, and we can head off problems down the road by engaging early in the process.